Good Monday. This is Jay Brew, co-chairman of Seafried and Brew. Well, sort of had an epiphany over the last week. Many of you know that I'm a community bank director, but I'm also the chair of Embassy Bank for the Lehigh Valley's Audit Committee. And within that was where my epiphany, as we were getting together for our Audit Committee meeting for this month, as well as going to a meeting on IT risk to see what was going on there, and then working on a Seafried and Brew project of a strategic plan for a community bank that has a number of regulatory issues. So when you look at that and you look at the other piece in terms of the audit committee piece, is that suddenly things were coming together for me in terms of how we all look at risk. And this goes beyond the risks that I typically talk about in terms of those risks encompassed in CAMELS, but really going into looking at more operational risks, looking at, for instance, the whole aspect of internal audit in here, and then looking specifically at that entire IT risk that we all try to get our arms around. And it was interesting going to the IT meeting that we had, is that me knowing absolutely nothing in this area in terms of expertise, but looking at it from the standpoint of going through what many of you have done in terms of a penetration test. And it's really amazing that it's not only thinking about, well, what could happen based upon what we know right now and phishing and all of these type of things, but it's also trying to anticipate in the future what different risks could come about in terms of this whole IT situation, which even gets into things like voice and voice data transmissions being able to be taken and put into data form in this day and age is a big question for the next couple of years in terms of the risks we see in that area. And so the epiphany really, from the standpoint of looking at risk and then the controls that we've put into place to at least control that risk in a way that brings that risk into that moderate to low zone, and then to be satisfied with that. And so as I looked at my position as audit committee chair, I thought about this in terms of all these aspects, and I really looked at my job as well as the audit committee's job is really to be satisfied that all of those risks, especially the ones that the regulators have identified, as well as ones that we can think of in the areas such as disaster recovery, etc., are in that moderate to low zone. And to be able to sit there and to be able to say which risks and ask the questions of the professionals of which risks really are we moderate to maybe to high, and to be able to then once again get my arms around it. So when we think about ourselves as directors in these positions, is that oftentimes it's daunting in terms of what's in front of us. Yet what was interesting from the strategic planning project we're working on, and you looked at how the regulators looked at all the areas from board oversight to controls, is that they were pointing this bank in what I felt is the right direction, because it's what my bank was doing. And this particular bank felt that they were being maybe treated harshly by the regulators, but when I analyzed all of the different points the regulators were bringing about, my opinion is that the regulators were pushing them from moving to a more moderate to low risk in terms of control risk. So thinking about that and putting those pieces together is that actually, as a director, I felt more comfortable with our bank's overall level of risk. This is Jay Brew, co-chairman of Seafried and Brew. Have a good week.